Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoint and this is the ROG Ally, which is a new handheld games console from ASUS. And let me start by saying this thing is an absolute beast. Now, unlike some of the others out there that only allow you to stream your games, this will let you download and play them offline. That includes PC games from the Steam and Epic stores, as well as the Xbox Game Pass library. On top of that, as it's running Windows 11, you can install the PlayStation Plus app and play all of those games as well. Now, ASUS did send me this unit ahead of launch to review, but it is not sponsored and all of the views are 100% my own. But on first impressions, this is awesome. Okay, so here's the box that it comes in, which is nice and simple with a little ROG branding. But let's get this opened up and see what we get inside. There's the Ally itself, which is a lot lighter and bigger than I was expecting, but more on that later. Then we have a warranty card as well as a quick start guide to get you up and running. And here's a 65 watt power brick that has a USB-C connector on one end and a plug on the other. And that's it, that's everything that we get inside the box. So straight out of the box and first impressions, I really like this. The colour theme looks nice and the positioning of the controls and buttons feel well placed. I also like the pop of colour that we're getting from the A, B, X and Y buttons, which have a nice glossy finish to them. Now, photos and videos might not do this justice, but this is big. I've put the measurements on screen now, but just for size reference, here it is compared to something like an iPhone 14 Pro, a 14 Pro Max, and a Switch OLED console. So you can see it makes the Switch look so much slimmer. It weighs just over 600 grams, which is more than any of the other items that I've just shown. But you know what? It doesn't feel heavy. It actually feels really well balanced in my hands. It's not top or bottom heavy, although it's not something you'd probably want to use one-handed. Looking around, there are a few ROG logos, including one on the front, on the palm rest, and even on the corners just here. There's also a vent on the rear that's cut out in the shape of the ROG logo. And this silver line in the middle, at first I thought it was an LED strip, but it's actually a holographic strip that changes colour depending on how you hold it. So overall, I don't mind the white design. I think it looks clean and fresh, but I imagine Dbrand will probably bring us some skins just like we saw with the Steam Deck. So on this we get a 7-inch touchscreen display, which is capable of up to 120Hz at 1080p. And on a screen this size, 1080p looks incredible. In fact, looking around at the text and the images on screen, it is super sharp and there's no ghosting or clarity issues at all. And having used this for the last week, I honestly feel that this is the perfect screen size for a handheld. Sure, it would have been great to have seen an OLED screen, as that would have improved the overall picture quality and viewing angles, but most of the time you're playing straight on, so viewing angles aren't really going to be a huge issue. As for the brightness, well, this maxes out at 500 nits, which is decent, so viewing it and playing indoors or outside on a cloudy day is fine. In direct sunlight you'll struggle, but that's going to be the same with any glossy screen. And as for the reflection handling, well, it's brilliant. The screen is glossy, but it has a very dark tint which helps with reducing those reflections. Here it is compared to the OLED Switch console, and you can see just how good it looks. And from the games that I've played so far, they all run really smoothly. I know most games won't take advantage of the full 120 frames per second, but playing games like Spider-Man Miles Morales instantly show me how capable the screen is. Plus it supports a VRR, or the variable refresh rate, so you're getting the best frame rate from each game that supports it. That means no stuttering or screen tearing, which is a huge advantage of this device over some of the others. As for the controls, we've got the asymmetrical thumbstick layout, which we've seen across almost every controller other than PlayStation. It's got a nice grippy texture to the top and the positioning is great. And around those you'll notice there's a tiny little LED ring. Well, this can be customized to pulsate, flash or show a solid colour. On some supported games, you can also sync this to what's on screen, or you can turn them off completely if you don't like them. The A, B, X and Y buttons, as mentioned, are glossy and are a good size. And the D-pad on the left feels firm and has no hard clicks to it. Then across the top we have the left and right bumpers and triggers, which could be the best that I've felt so far on a handheld, and that's in terms of the size and the positioning. These can also be adjusted in the settings to reduce or increase the sensitivity. We then have the power button, which also doubles up as a fingerprint reader for logging in, a couple of LEDs for the battery and the power status. Next to that we have the volume buttons, a USB-C port which also supports DisplayPort 1.4, and this can be used to charge and send a picture to an external monitor, but I will show more on that later. There's a micro SD card slot, so although it comes with a 512GB of internal storage, you can expand this. And finally we've got the headphone and microphone port at the end. Now I like the fact that they've designed this with all of the ports at the top, so there are none at the bottom at all, which makes charging and using it at the same time so much easier. Then around the back we've got these two rear mappable buttons. They call them the macro buttons, and you can actually customize those in the settings to map them to any other button on the controller. The smaller buttons on either side of the screen include the view button. This changes the layout of the screen or folder that you have open. Then there's the command center button, which brings up this quick launcher. From here you can adjust the brightness and sound and a few other things as well. This includes the ability to change the operating mode between silent, performance and turbo, essentially increasing the performance and wattage output. You can also change or limit the resolution or refresh rate, as well as taking screenshots or screen recordings. And one cool feature is by pressing the real-time monitor, you get to see the current stats of the console, things like the CPU, GPU and watts, as well as the FPS counter and temperature. You can even move this window around your screen to place it wherever you need it. All of this can be customized too, so you can decide which icons you want to show up in the command center, including aeroplane mode and a few others. Then on the right side we have the menu button, and this acts like the start button while you're playing games. And underneath that we have the armory button, and that brings you to the game library, which is the centerpiece of this console. So by default, each time you power on the Ally, it will bring you to this screen. This is the game library. It's where all of your installed games or related apps are located. This includes local games you've downloaded from places like Steam or the Epic Store, as well as quick launches into apps like Game Pass, PS Remote Play, and even PlayStation Plus. It means every time you want to return to this library, instead of using gestures or trying to get back to the desktop, one simple click of a button and you're straight into this library. Now, adding different apps isn't as easy as jumping into a store like on Android and iOS. You will need to go and find these apps on their websites and download them. Now, one thing I did notice is after I downloaded the PlayStation apps is they did not show up in this launcher. So if you want to add an app that doesn't show up here automatically, simply click the Add button and navigate to the folder that it's located in. You can also change the way the apps are sorted, either by recently played, name, when they were added, or the platform. And if you press that View button again, it will toggle between the list and the grid layout. So the Ally comes with AMD's brand new Ryzen Z1 series chip, either the Z1 or the Z1 Extreme depending on the model that you go for. The one that I have here is the Z1 Extreme, which gives us 8 cores instead of 6, and 8.6 teraflops instead of 2.8, and this thing is rapid. As you can see, I've installed a few different games on it to test out, including Spider-Man Remastered and Forza Horizon 5. These are all stored locally, which means not only am I using the processor to play it, but I can play these offline. So jumping into a game, whether I'm at home, in the car or away, is effortless. Having all of this power in my hands, more power than most laptops, is just crazy. But it's not just how good these games look and play, it's also how they feel. So the handset actually has haptics built in, which means when you're running, swinging or driving, you can feel the rumble and feedback through the controller. It's only subtle, but it's enough to make it feel that little bit more immersive. It also has a 6-axis gyro built in for any of those games that support it. Now I know a few of you commented on my shorts last week asking what the responsiveness was like of the thumbsticks. Well, from my testing, it's no different to that of an Xbox and a PlayStation 5 controller. You can tweak it in the settings, so if you're not happy with it, you can adjust it yourself. It's also incredibly comfy to hold. The grips on the rear are a textured plastic, while the angles and the overall shape makes it feel ergonomic in the hand. Even reaching the buttons in the top half feels effortless. So as mentioned, the controls, triggers and thumbsticks feel well balanced and are very easy to use, and it's likely how you'll use this handset most of the time. However, if you wanted to use your own controller, well you can. Just simply connect to it via Bluetooth and pair it up and you're good to go. Basically any controller that says it works on PC will be fine on the Ally. I tested this with the Xbox Series S controller and it let me play my games as well as control the dashboard. And the same goes for the PlayStation 5 controller. It will connect via Bluetooth and you can control the games that you're playing. The only issue that I faced was trying to use the PlayStation Remote Play. Unfortunately, it doesn't recognise the DualSense controller unless it's plugged in. So unlike the Logitech G Cloud, where you can only stream Xbox games via this app, on the Ally you can stream and download them. This means that any games you want to take with you on holiday or somewhere you won't have an internet connection, well you can do that. Simply by jumping into the Game Pass app, choosing the game you want to download, and you now have that game for offline play. But of course, if you'd rather stream the games without waiting for them to download, well you can do that as well via the cloud gaming. The games will run as fast as your internet speed can handle, and from the games that I've played so far, everything looks and runs so smoothly. That's included Forza Horizon 4 and a few others that are available in the library. Then there's PlayStation. So if you didn't know already, there are 2 ways you can play PlayStation games away from your PS4 and PS5. The first is Remote Play. This app lets you boot up and remote log into your console and essentially stream the feed straight to your device. This works on quite a few devices already, including most phones, tablets, PC and Mac. However, you do need to use a PS5 controller when playing these games. You can navigate around the dashboard with the Ally controller, but as soon as you jump into a game, it appears to stop working. The only option for me was to plug the DualSense controller in via USB-C. I then tested out Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and as you can see, it played incredibly well over Wi-Fi, and the same goes for a few other games that I tested out as well. But remember, you do need your PS4 or PS5 on for this to work. Then there's the second option, something that's currently only supported on PC. So PlayStation Now allows you to play and stream your games to your PC via their PlayStation Plus app. All you need is an active subscription and the app installed. Now, as the Ally is running Windows 11, it means it can install normal Windows apps, which is what this is. Once it's installed and you've signed in, you will have full access to the PS Plus library of games to play on the go. Now, you do need an active connection for this to work, as it's streaming rather than downloading, but you do not need your PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 console on, as this is cloud gaming and not remote play. In fact, you don't even need a PlayStation console for this to work. Also, the inbuilt controller on the Ally works, so there's no need to connect an external controller to use it. So on top of playing all of the current games from your streaming services and consoles, you can also use it to load emulators. This isn't something that I've done personally, but taking a quick look around online, there are already people doing this. This means you can play your old PS1, PSP, and N64 games, which are all stored locally. This is with thanks to it running Windows 11, which means most Windows apps and software will run on here as well. So it's not a custom-made OS or running a mobile or tablet OS, it's a full Windows 11 install. But that means, like with most new PCs or laptops, it does come with apps and softwares that you might not want or need. So my advice is, once you've powered it on for the first time, you'll probably want to check out what's installed and remove any that you know you'll never use. And as mentioned, each time you switch it on, it will default to the Armory crate, which is where all of the games are installed. But you will still need to use Windows to install new apps, apply updates, or just navigating around. If you're familiar with Windows already, this isn't going to be an issue, but it's still something worth mentioning. It does also come with the usual gesture control, so swiping up with 3 fingers will show you all of the apps you have running. It's also the quickest way to jump between windows or games that you have open. And as this is Windows 11, you basically have a full PC in your hand. That includes the Windows Store, Microsoft Office, and any other apps you can think of. You can also use it to watch YouTube and Netflix or download movies to watch them offline. Although this is obviously aimed at gaming, you could use this for work. Now, there isn't a mouse or a touchpad control for the cursor, but you can either use the touch screen or the thumbstick to navigate it around. Failing that, you can connect a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse and use it like a mini PC. And on top of that, if you use the USB-C port, you can actually connect this to an external monitor, which is a pretty cool feature for both work and gaming. So I hooked it up to a 40-inch ultrawide, and as you can see, it's literally like having a mini Windows 11 PC on my setup that I can take with me anywhere. And you'll be pleased to know it does support ultrawide, which I know was a question that a few of you asked on Twitter when I posted those photos last week. Okay, let's talk about the sound. So these little vents on the front are the speakers. They support Dolby Atmos and use something called Smart Amp to provide a distortion-free experience. And I'm amazed at just how good they sound. Like, these are seriously really good speakers for such a small device. It's also great that they are front-facing rather than facing upwards or backwards. Now, at first I was concerned that my palms would probably cover the speakers while playing, but as you can see, your thumb or your palms never actually sit on top of the vents. But have a listen to this and see what you think. It's also worth mentioning the fans. So when it's in a slow state or standby, the fans are very quiet. And when running it in performance or turbo mode, you are going to hear them, although only very slightly. But once you have your speakers on or your headphones in, you're not going to notice them at all. And as for the heat, well, the screen and the top part of the handset do get quite hot, but it does a great job of pushing that hot air out of the top via the vents. And if you're wondering, do my hands get hot while playing? Well, the answer is not at all. The grips and buttons don't get hot, only the top vents in the screen itself do, so your hands should not get sweaty while gaming. Okay, let's talk about the battery. So I charged this up to 100% using the provided 65-watt charger, which can charge from 0 to 50% in just 30 minutes. I then set the brightness to 75% and I ran it in performance mode just to see how long it would last. Well, after 2 hours of constant playing, it was flat, which is more than I was expecting. Of course, this time will vary depending on the game and the mode that you're running in, but I would expect anywhere between 90 minutes and 3 hours would be achievable. But if you're playing at home or near your desk setup, you'll probably run this in wired mode anyway. Okay, so the big question is it worth buying the ROG Ally? Well, if you're looking for a portable PC that can run all of your games from places like the Steam and Epic stores, download and play your Xbox games, as well as access to PlayStation Plus, this is a brilliant console. On top of that, you can emulate pretty much every classic game that's out there, use an external controller, and install Windows apps that you cannot get anywhere else. It also looks good, feels ergonomic, and is straightforward to use once you're up and running. And the fact that you can plug this into your TV or monitor and use it like a mini PC is insane. And as for the price, it starts at $599, but the model that I have here is $699 with the faster processor. But what do you think to it, and what's been your favourite feature? Is this something that you would pick up, or is there another handheld that you would go for instead? Now drop a nice gaming handheld in the comments and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my 77-inch G3 video next, as it covers LG's new 2023 OLED TV, which I unboxed a couple of weeks ago. Well, thanks for watching, please like, sub and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time.